And so, hello there, and welcome to a new Night of the Movies podcast. And in these podcasts, I talk all things movies, TV, and whatever I want for about half an hour to an hour once a week. And today, in this podcast, I'm doing my reviews of the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, as well as the new Knives Out film, Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery. But before I do all that, I should say what I say at the start of every podcast I do, that if you are watching this on YouTube, hello there to my viewers, but heck, you just don't have the time to watch the full podcast on YouTube, then you can also listen to the podcast on Spotify at Nights and Movies on that platform. And if you are listening to this on Spotify, hello there to podcast listeners, then you can also watch the podcast on YouTube at Nights and Movies on there as well. Likewise, wherever you're watching the podcast, I hope you're enjoying it. And if you are, please feel free to like, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, and also leave some feedback so I know what to improve on in the near distant future on these podcasts. Maybe you want more of just me, maybe you want some special guests in this podcast, maybe you like longer podcasts, maybe you like shorter podcasts. Please leave some feedback in the comment section below or wherever you're listening to this so I know what to improve on as well. But anyway, as we already mentioned in this podcast today, I'm doing my reviews of the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special as well as Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery. But just before I get into them, I should say that I know I've said this at the start of every podcast in the past couple of weeks, but I'm going to say it again here. I'm very busy right now, so I don't know how the podcast is going to turn out. Maybe you'll understand every word I'm saying, because sometimes when I'm so busy and so stressed, I start speaking really, really quickly, like I think the world's going to end like this. So, hopefully I don't do that in this podcast today, and hopefully you can understand everything I'm saying, because it's what happens when I get stressed. And also, this podcast isn't that well planned, I've got to admit as well. Pulling back the curtain a bit there, but it isn't that well planned because I just don't have that much time to plan these podcasts at the moment. Honestly, I'm writing 3 meaty essays for uni. I've got all this personal stuff going on as well. It's getting close to Christmas and I'm trying to buy Christmas presents, trying to do all this all before Christmas, and it's so stressful right now. So I don't know how this podcast is going to turn out, and hopefully I don't make a huge mess of it, but still, nonetheless, I just wanted to give you guys a bit of a heads up. If you wonder why, and pardon me there, if you wonder why this podcast is a bit shabby, because I think it is as well. But anyway, like I've already mentioned, in this podcast, I'm doing my review of Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery a bit later on. But first, I'm doing my review of the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. So basically, this is neither it's neither a movie or it's neither an episode of a TV show. It's about 40 odd minutes long, as far as I'm aware. And it's kind of like in the same vein, in the same family as Werewolf by Night. Like, Werewolf by Night came out early October, and that was kind of like Marvel's Halloween special. And I thought that was okay, by the way. It was directed by Michael Giacchino, who's predominantly a film composer who's made some absolutely amazing scores for films like The Batman, The Incredibles movies. Also, he did the latest Spider-Man movies, Doctor Strange, and the Planet of the Apes films, the latest ones. But yeah, Michael Giacchino did some amazing soundtracks and amazing scores, should I say. And he also directed Werewolf by Night, which I thought was okay. I thought if it was longer, it could have been a lot better. But it was good for what it was. It wasn't bad. I didn't dislike it. And now this is our next Marvel special presentation. It's essentially our next Marvel TV movie. This is what they're doing, just to keep up the Disney Plus viewer. You know what I mean? Keep up the Disney Plus subscriptions, because basically this special is only about 40 minutes, and in it we follow the Guardians of the Galaxy once again. They're all returning, with the exception of Gamora, who's not in this special, by the way. And that's not a spoiler. She wasn't in any of the trailers, so I'm not giving anything away. But in this special, you have Star-Lord, once again played by Chris Pratt. You got Drax, played by Dave Bautista. Also, Dave Bautista is in Glass Onion as well, so I'm reviewing 2 Dave Bautista things today. But also, you got Pom I forgot her name now. Pom Clementine, I think that's what her name is, as Mantis, Bradley Cooper as the voice of Rocket, and Vin Diesel as the voice of Groot. As well as that, you also have a kind of special guest in this TV special in Kevin Bacon, basically playing a version of himself. He's not playing himself, he's playing a version of himself, the James Gunn version of himself. And speaking of James Gunn, this special is also it's also written and directed by James Gunn as well. James Gunn, who directed the previous 2 Guardians of the Galaxy movies. He also made the Suicide Squad as well, and he also made the Peacemaker TV show recently. I must admit I haven't seen the Peacemaker TV show, but yeah, he's back directing and writing here. And essentially the plot of this special is Star-Lord is sad around Christmas because the Guardians think that Yondu in the past ruined Christmas for Star-Lord. And so now he's a bit depressed around this time of the year. So Mantis and Drax go down to Earth and go and try and bring Kevin Bacon to Star-Lord. And things go wrong though as they try to do that. And that's essentially the setup for the movie, or the setup for the special, should I say. And, you know, a lot more things happen, and when Kevin Bacon and Star-Lord meet, it's quite funny. That's not really a spoiler, they kind of saw that coming, but still, nonetheless, yeah, that's essentially the setup for the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. And I was looking forward to the special, I've got to admit, you know, because as much as I do criticise the MCU 24/7 on this channel, I've got to admit, I need to stop doing that, but as much as I don't like the MCU, I've always liked the Guardians of the Galaxy movies though. They're my favourite comic book films. Honestly, the first one is my favourite comic book movie. It's my favourite superhero film. I adore it to pieces. I still remember watching that first Guardians of the Galaxy in the cinema back in 2014 and being blown away by what I was seeing. And then Guardians of the Galaxy 2 came out in 2017. Although I didn't like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 quite as much as I liked the first one, it's still got a really good heart in there, and I thought it was actually really entertaining still. I know a lot of people don't like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but personally, I think it's actually got moments which are better than the first one. I don't think the overall movie is better than the first Guardians film, but I think it's got a lot of fantastic moments. I also love Kurt Russell in that film as well, and I like how it develops on the Guardian story. And so, you know, even so I have my big problems with the MCU, the Guardians have always been that, you know, that silver lining for me, that thing that's kept me watching in the MCU, because I want to see how their story ends, which we will see next year in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which has also been written and directed by James Gunn, and apparently this special was also filmed at the same time that Guardians 2 was in production, so yeah, that's quite interesting in itself, because you kind of wonder whether these two are kind of link up to each other, whether the Guardians Holiday Special will link up to Guardians 3. But also James Gunn has, you know, directed some other comic movies in the past. Not only has he directed the Guardians of the Galaxy films, like I said before, he directed the Suicide Squad, which on reflection I didn't love, but I still like quite a lot because of what he's trying to do. It just didn't work for me as much as I'd wanted to. And also he directed Super in 2010, which is kind of like what happens if just this normal bloke who's quite depressed becomes a superhero. It's low budget, and it's got people like Rainn Wilson in there, Liv Tyler, Kevin Bacon's in that film as well, so this is actually the second time that James Gunn has worked with Kevin Bacon. But yeah, that film is, it's good as well. I think it's kind of in the same vein as the Suicide Squad, where I applaud it for what it's trying to do. I just don't think it fully succeeded in what it was trying to do though. But on to the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. So what I was saying there was I'm a big fan of James Gunn, big fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy movie so far, and honestly, I thought the special was good. I don't think it's brilliant, and I don't think it's the best thing James Gunn has done. I also don't think it's the best thing to come out of Guardians of the Galaxy story. In fact, I think it's the worst thing to come out of the Guardians of the Galaxy story, I've got to admit. As much as I did enjoy it, and I found it hilarious, and I'm not dissing on it in any way, and you know, I enjoyed it overall, it was a bit, it felt a bit like it just, you know what it felt like? It felt like James Gunn was more excited with the concept of this special than actually making it. Because there's some really good ideas in there, some really funny parts. But in the end, the special just kind of makes you go, huh, yeah, okay, that was fun. But if it wasn't in my life, I don't think I'd be needing it. You know what I mean? Like, I was watching it and I was laughing along with it and I was enjoying myself. I found it entertaining. But in the end, the special finished and I just went, okay, that was entertaining, but, you know, it could have been a bit better. And it's kind of painful to say that with the Guardians thing, because, like I said before, I'm a huge fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy in the MCU. They're my favourite part of the MCU. So I was watching this and I wanted a bit more from it. I wanted a bit more from the characters, because it feels kind of rushed. And I feel it's because it's a TV special. If it was a movie, or if it was actually just a tad bit longer, maybe 10 minutes, parts of the film could be more fleshed out. It's not a film, it's a special, but parts of the special could be more fleshed out. Like, there's this really funny part where Drax and Mantis go down to Earth together to go and try and find Kevin Bacon, and that part is hilarious. But we just don't see that much of it, though. I would have liked to see a lot more of it. And also, the ending of the film kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. Like, the ending is quite emotional, it is, and I won't give away what happens, but the ending was like, oh, that's really sweet, and I'm looking forward to how that's continued in Guardians 3. But at the same time, though, it kind of felt like it came out of nowhere, and there were parts of it which felt like trying to be too funny. Also, the opening was a bit ropey as well. It's just, I feel that if this came out like 2 years ago, or James Gunn was making Guardians of the Galaxy 3 at a different time, this special could have been better. Because I feel that James Gunn, because he was making Guardians of the Galaxy 3 at the same time, as far as I'm aware he was, but because he was making Guardians 3 at the same time, he kind of did this on the side, and he didn't put all his effort into it. I mean, that's the way I see it. I dare say James Gunn was, you know, here in this room right now, I'd be disputing and say, actually, I put my full 100% effort into this special. And so, you know, I just wish it felt like that, though. You know, for me, it didn't feel like that. For me, it felt like Gunn was more excited with the concept of this special than actually making it. But it does have a lot of good moments, though. You know, it is funny. I laughed far more than I thought I was going to, because you know, Marvel recently has been really annoying with their comedy, especially if you look at something like Thor: Love and Thunder, which has way too much comedy, and this special has a lot of comedy in there. But at the same time, though, most of the comedy worked. I mean, not all the comedy did, but, you know, most of it did, so I'll take that as a win. And also, I enjoyed seeing the Guardians again as well. You know, we haven't really properly seen them since Guardians 2. I know they're in the latest 2 Avengers films, and I know they're also in Thor: Love and Thunder, but we didn't properly get to see them. And also, they weren't really James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy in those movies. They were written by other people, which is fine, but I feel when James Gunn brings his take to the Guardians of the Galaxy, he makes it more him, if you know what I mean, and he makes it more fun and more interesting because he adds a different twist to these characters. Whilst there's someone else like Taika Waititi writing them in Thor: Love and Thunder, I just kind of feel like they're there for the sake of being there. You know, they're there for the sake of, we can have the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, why don't we? But here, I like the fact that we get to see James Gunn's take on the Guardians of the Galaxy once again, and also, I think that Kevin Bacon was an absolute delight in this movie as well. It's not a movie. I keep saying it's a movie, but it's not a movie, it's a special. But Kevin Bacon was an absolute delight, playing a version of himself. Honestly, as soon as he comes on screen, you're just grinning from ear to ear. And I liked, like I said before, seeing Drax and Mantis on Earth. I thought that was really funny. I also like the fact, by the way, and this really is a spoiler, but the fact that the film, I keep saying this film, the fact that the special opens with like a cartoon animation, which I thought was actually quite a unique way to start the special. Like, I was watching my brother and we went, oh, it's animated, and I went, I don't think it is, but the start of the special is, and I actually kind of like that. And also, it's got a cracking Christmas soundtrack as well. I love the use of Fair Town in New York in the special. I said, right, this time I didn't say a film, I said it's a special. I also love that it had a bit of the Waitress in there, Christmas wrapping, but also some new Christmas songs I haven't heard of. Pardon me there. You know, I'm a big Christmas song listener. Honestly, every single time it gets around the middle of November, I'm listening to Christmas songs continuously. I'm listening to Slade, you know, The Pogues, Fair Town in New York, Chris Ware, Driving Over Christmas, Shakin' Stevens, Merry Christmas Everyone, what's the one? Jonah Louie, Stop the Cavalry, can't really think of it on my head right now, but Wham! Last Christmas. Not a big fan of Mariah Carey, All Over Christmas Is You, got to admit, I think it's massively overplayed. But also, Wizard, I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day. That was like my all-time favourite Christmas song, which I think is vastly underrated. But yes, I'm a big Christmas song listener, but even I didn't really know the majority of the Christmas songs in this special, which is kind of nice. I knew some of them, like obviously in Waitress's Christmas Wrapping, which was used when Mantis and Drax are dancing in the bar, and I also knew Fair Town in New York, which is played at the beginning and end of the special, but it was kind of nice to hear some new Christmas songs as well. And I thought that the production value was clear, you know, clearly a lot of effort being put into the special. And it kind of felt like James Gunn as well, with this special, was making fun of those like Channel 5 Christmas films, or if you're in America they're called Hallmark Christmas movies. You know, the ones that are just on Netflix where they're dead cheesy, lines of dialogue are so badly written, the acting is really poor, but you kind of can't keep your eyes away from them. Like, my mum puts them on every single time of the year. You know, she just puts on these like really bad Christmas movies, which are just so entertaining to watch for all the wrong reasons. And it kind of felt like James Gunn was making fun of those films, which I did actually quite enjoy. And yeah, the special has a lot of perks. I'm not saying it's bad, I just kind of wish it was a bit better. I wish it was longer, I wish parts of the film were more fleshed out, I wish we got to see more of these characters, because now we have to wait till May to see Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And also there's some big plot holes, by the way, and some big open ends at the end of the special, which might be tied up in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, although I highly doubt that though, but who knows? I don't really know what Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is actually about. For all I know, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is them going down to Earth, but I doubt it is. I don't know, but I just doubt it's that. So there's some plot holes left open, some open ends which I wish were kind of more tied up. There's also a bit of missed opportunities in there, in my opinion, as well. But for what it is, you know, make you smile and it make you feel Christmassy. It made me feel Christmassy. But I've also got to admit, I don't know if it's one of those sort of TV specials, or like one of those Christmas specials, or Christmas movie or something like that, which I'll stick on every single Christmas when I'm like putting up my Christmas tree, or when I'm putting on the Christmas decorations and we have Christmas TV on. I don't know if I'm always going to want to put this one on though. Like, I don't know if it's always going to be a Christmas special I want to return to in the near distant future. But who knows? Maybe it'll grow on me as time goes by. Maybe in a month's time I'll be talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special and going, you know what? I was a bit too harsh in it. Actually, I've seen it like 3 times since, and it's bloody awesome. Maybe I will. We'll have to wait and see. But for now, after watching the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special once, I'm going to say that it's a 7 out of 10. It's worth watching if you enjoy these characters like I do, but I also don't think it's anything particularly brilliant. But at 40 minutes, you know, it kind of does what it says on the tin. It's a Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, and that's what it delivers on. It's got laughs, it's got heart, and also it's got Kevin Bacon in there as well. And it's got a cracking Christmas soundtrack, and it is wonderful to watch. And, you know, it's got a lot of great moments. I just wish it was better, in my opinion. I just wish the parts of it were just more fleshed out. And I don't want to explain what I mean because we're going into spoilers for the end of the special. So I think you understand what I mean when you get to the end of the special. Like, when you get to the end of the special, you probably understand what I mean when I say I wanted that part of the special more fleshed out. But still, I liked it. I did, and I enjoyed seeing the Guardians again, and it was fun. I was entertained by it, and I found it really funny. And you know what? I'm happy with that. So, like I said before, I'm going to say that the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, I'm going to say that it's a 7 out of 10 from me. And also, one thing I got to mention was it's probably the most entertaining thing to come out of Marvel the past year. That's including, you know what, I'm going to include Spider-Man No Way Home as well, because that technically came out in the past year since I'm doing this podcast. You know, I think it was more entertaining than Spider-Man No Way Home. I think it was more entertaining than Doctor Strange and the Multiverse and Meandering. I thought it was more entertaining than She-Hulk, more entertaining than Miss Marvel, more entertaining than Thor Love and Thunder, and also more entertaining than Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And I liked Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but I didn't find it that enjoyable to watch. But I found the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special enjoyable to watch, and if you're a fan of these characters, do go and check them out. The special is currently on Disney+. But anyway, that's my first review over and done with, so without further ado, let's get into my second review of Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery. So this is kind of the sequel to Knives Out, although most of the characters are different. They're not the same from the first Knives Out film. The only character that is the same is Daniel Craig returning as Benoit Blanc, the detective he played in the first Knives Out, and also we have Ryan Johnson returning to write and direct, who also acted the first Knives Out as well. And basically, this film, as far as I'm aware, is coming out for a week now in cinemas, and then in a month's time, or around about a month's time, on the 23rd of December, it's coming out on Netflix. So I got to watch it in the cinema, and I'll go into more detail on this a bit later, but I'm so happy I did. But anyway, basically this special follows a group of billionaires who are all very egotistical, and basically they go to this island annually, and they all just celebrate each other's wealth on this island, and they go there annually and they just really enjoy themselves. However, this time in 2020, when the film is set during the pandemic, when they all go to the island, it turns out that Benoit Blanc has come along with them, and nobody's really sure how. And then as the film starts to progress, you realise that a mystery is kind of taking over this week away at this billionaire island, and things start to happen, and then basically towards the end, I said basically way too many times in the plot synopsis, but towards the end of the film, Benoit Blanc solves the mystery of what's been going on this island with all these billionaires. And honestly, this is one of my favourite films of the year now. I absolutely adored it, I really did. And, you know, I'd probably say it's better than something like The Northman or The Banshees of Inisherin. And I enjoyed both of those films quite a lot. I love both of those movies actually. And those two movies are some of my favourite films of 2022. But the thing is though, the reason I prefer Glass Onion over those movies is because of how incredibly entertaining it was. Honestly, it was outrageously fun to watch. It really is, and all the characters are an absolute joy. Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc, it feels like he's settled into the world a bit more. You know, in the first film, I must admit, the first time I watched the first Knives Out, I was trying to get over the Daniel Craig, you know, Southern American accent that he was doing. Because obviously, you know, Daniel Craig is Bond. He's got that typical, you know, strong British accent, the London accent in the Bond movies, you know, from Casino Royale to No Time to Die. But then, when you're watching him in Knives Out, it was just a bit difficult to get over his accent the first time. But then I rewatched Knives Out a couple of years ago, and I really liked that movie when I rewatched it. And then when he's first on screen in Glass Onion, you think that you kind of like, oh, he's doing that accent again. Is it going to work? And then about a minute later, wasn't bothered by it anymore. And I do actually think it's better than the first Knives Out, by the way. And I liked the first Knives Out quite a lot. Can't speak. I liked the first Knives Out quite a bit. I did. But this one's better. I didn't love the first Knives Out. I love this movie because just how incredibly entertaining it was. It was just so much fun. And it's funny as well. And I watched it in a cinema packed full of people, and they were all laughing along with it. It was cheering at certain moments, and certain moments they were gasping as well, because, you know, it's a mystery. And when the mystery unravels, I heard some people in the cinema go, like you're meant to, and who done it like this. And it's just, oh, it was brilliant. And yeah, I absolutely adored it. As for criticisms, these are just minor ones. I want to get them out of the way before I rave more about the movie. Some of the comedy in the film just didn't work for me. Some of the comedy just felt like it was a bit out of place. But the majority of it did, so I'll take the comedy in this film as a win. And also, like I said before, I hate watching comedies in the cinema or films that have funny moments in the cinema, because sometimes everyone else will be laughing and I won't be, and I feel like I'm a bit out of place, or I'm not enjoying the movie as much as some other people. I'm watching a different movie, if you will. But here, when I was watching this in the cinema, I was laughing along with everyone else, just because of how outrageously fun this film is. Pardon me there, but just because of how outrageously fun this film is. Also, it's different than the first Knives Out, though. It's a very different movie, and so if you're a fan of the first Knives Out, this one might be not what you expect. It might throw you a curveball, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be for everyone, and I can clearly see why. And if you're a fan of the first Knives Out, you might not enjoy this movie as much as the first one, and it might take a bit of time to adjust to. Also, the film has a lot of famous cameos, which make you smile, but also kind of take you out of the movie a tad bit. Like, there's one cameo in particular, about halfway through the film, where I was kind of like, oh, it's that famous actor. But okay, why? It was a fun cameo, and if you've seen the film, you'll probably know what cameo I'm talking about, but I didn't know if it was needed, you know what I mean? Like, it just took me out of it a little bit. And also, the ending is stretched out to a degree as well. Like, the film's ending feels like it goes on for 20 minutes, and I should say, I wouldn't cut anything out of the ending. It leaves you on the biggest grin ever. It's such a brilliant ending. It really is. But it just feels like it goes on for 20 minutes. It feels like Rian Johnson kind of stretched out the ending, sorry, because he was having so much fun making this movie. And also, it does feel a bit like, I don't know, sometimes in parts it feels like the structure of the film could have been done a bit better as well. And it's got a non-linear narrative. What I mean by that is it's like the story events don't take place chronologically. So, you know, you get bits going on here which are like 3 days ago, then you'll cut back to present day, quote unquote present day in the movie, then you'll cut back to 2 days ago, something like that. It's got a non-linear narrative, which might also be confusing for some people. But saying all that though, I had such a great time with it. That's why I think it's one of my favourite films of the year, because I had such an amazing time watching this movie. Honestly, it flew by. Like, the film, I think it's about 2 hours, 10 minutes. I don't know, it felt round about that length. But actually, it felt round about an hour and a half. It just was so great. And it's got spectacle in there as well. You know, if you do get a chance, go and watch in the cinema. I mean, I don't know, maybe you won't have the same response as I have. But at the same time, though, you know, if you do get a chance, go and check out in the cinema, because it does have spectacle in there. Moments which I feel if you're watching this in a packed crowd, full of people in the cinema, you'll really get along with it, and you'll laugh along, and you'll just really enjoy it a bit more. And it's fine to watch on Netflix as well. In fact, I'll be rewatching on Netflix quite a lot. I can't wait to rewatch on Netflix when it finally comes out on that platform. But at the same time, though, if you do get a chance, go and check it out in cinemas. I think it's still out for the next couple of days. I don't know, it might not be. But I got a chance to see it in the cinema. I was just so happy and pleased myself that I did. It was a packed cinema, and I haven't really had a cinema experience like this, like a really positive cinema experience like this, since probably the second time I saw Spider-Man No Way Home, because a lot of people churning that as well. But yeah, also the film has a really great orchestral, jubilant score by Nathan Johnson, which immerses you into the world of Glass Onion. I love the setting of the film. There is a good reason it's called Glass Onion, and it's not because of the Beatles song. I'm a huge Beatles fan, love them to pieces, but it's not just because of the Beatles song though. And the Beatles song is played, isn't it? Spoiler, it's played in the credits, but that's not the reason it's called. That's not the reason this film is called Glass Onion. Glass Onion isn't named after the Beatles song. There's a bigger reason why. And I love finding out why it was called that though. And also, again, not a spoiler, Edward Norton, who plays one of the billionaires in the film, who's great by the way. Everyone is perfectly cast in this film. Like, perfectly cast. Not one miscast in the bunch. Honestly, they're all just perfect in the film. I love them all to pieces. All the characters and all the performances as well. But there's one part of the film where Edward Norton is playing the opening, you know, sort of guitar rhythm to Blackbird by the Beatles as well, which is kind of a nice surprise. But yeah, everyone is perfect in the movie. The performances are just so fun. I know I said before, but I'm going to say it again. They were just so delightful. And also, I've heard some criticism online with some people saying like the kite's a bit one-dimensional and not as interesting as the family in the first Knives Out. But I understand where that criticism is coming from. But I think Rian Johnson's done that on purpose. And again, I don't want to go into spoilers, because this film doesn't probably come out for like another month. But there's a reason that the characters are written in the way they are. They're one-dimensional to start off with, not to give too much away. But as the film carries on, you start to realise that there's a bit more to them than you initially thought. And you think they're just really annoying billionaires to start off with, but actually there's a lot more to them. And all these people saying their characters aren't as interesting as the first Knives Out. Yes, I think Rian Johnson, writer and director of the film, knows that. And he plays around with our expectations of those characters. At least that's why I saw that. And also, I think that I love the way the camera is moved as well. I love the way the camera moves in the film. I think Rian Johnson's direction in this Knives Out is much more confident than the first Knives Out. And also, it's a movie that was made during the pandemic. I think it was shot last year, or maybe shot the year beforehand. And even though it's set during the pandemic, it didn't feel like it was made during the pandemic. And I love that about it as well. I know that's not really a big thing for most people, but it was just something I wanted to point out. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else I forgot to mention. I think it's so much fun, and it also feels like one of those Agatha Christie's Poirot sort of movies. I must admit, I don't really know the name of them, but my brother used to have them on quite a lot when I was young. one of those horror movies where like it goes to an exotic location and a murder happens and it's like a group of people, kind of like Death on the Nile, which I did actually watch. Was it this year? It was this year actually. It was earlier this year, about February from what I remember. It's kind of like Death on the Nile, but miles better. And this film's got a load of comedy in there as well. It's much more sillier than the first Knives Out, but Rian Johnson knows that and he leans into that in this film. And I just loved it. I really, really did. It's an absolute delight. It's a pure delightful. It's witty, it's entertaining, it's sharp in its writing, and it's just such a fabulous film that I can't wait to rewatch on Netflix in about a month's time. You can tell I'm excited about this film because I just can't think of what I'm trying to say to just show you how much I love this movie. I just think it's brilliant. I love it to pieces and I can't wait to rewatch it because I think on a rewatch it's going to be even better. And so if you get a chance to watch Glass Onion in the cinema, do go and do so because, you know, I don't think you'll be disappointed by it, but also if you have to wait and you don't think you have time to watch in the cinema right now, look forward to when it comes out on Netflix because I can bet you probably won't be disappointed by it. It's so enjoyable, it's thoroughly enjoyable, and I know I said it before, but I'm going to say it again because I'm so happy I love this movie. I was really doubtful whether I was going to or not, but I came out of the cinema with literally the biggest smile on my face, and I was so happy that I loved it. And so, all in all, I'm going to say it's a 9 out of 10. Yeah, I'm giving it that rating because even though, you know, as a piece of cinema, films like The Northman and The Banshees of Inisherin, and I'm trying to think there's another one on the top of my head, The Batman even as well, even so as pieces of cinema, those films are probably better. I think this is more entertaining though, and that's simply why it's one of my favourite films of the year, because it is entertaining and it does have really funny moments and everyone is perfect in the film and it's so enjoyable and the mystery is so engaging and so enthralling as well, especially as it continues throughout the film. Like, it starts off and you think it's one thing and then it turns into something else and then it turns into something else and it turns into something else and it turns into something else, and that's kind of the point of the movie actually. Not to go into much detail, that's kind of the point of the movie, the fact that it is kind of like 5 different movies within itself in one movie, but it doesn't feel that messy. I know I said in my criticisms that it could have been structured a bit better, but actually now I think about it, the structure of the film kind of also really worked for me. And I love the non-linear narrative nature of the film as well. The fact that it isn't, you know, just kind of like a group of characters go to an exotic location, someone gets murdered, and then Benoit Blanc solves the case. That kind of happens in some parts, not really a spoiler though, but it's much more than that though. Like, that part of the film kind of happens. I'm trying not to give anything away, I'm really trying, but that kind of part of the film happens. Benoit Blanc kind of solves something, but then there's a lot more to the film than that. Again, once you've watched it, you'll understand what I'm talking about, but oh god, I loved it. I really did. It was such a delight, and it was so wonderful to watch. And it was just, God, it's probably the most enjoyable film I've seen this year. It's not the best film I've seen this year, that's still Elvis for me, but this is just so majestically enjoyable, and it just got better as it went on as well. I loved the ending to pieces, even so it felt a bit stretched out, you know, I still adored it. I can't get over how good this film is. I can't wait to rewatch it, and I also can't recommend it enough. I really can't. Like, if you can't watch this in the cinema, go and check it out when it comes out on Netflix as well, just before Christmas, because, yeah, even though it might not make you feel Christmassy, like the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, it will leave you with a huge grin. At least that's what it did for me anyway. And so, all in all, I thought Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, was ridiculously entertaining and an absolute delightful whodunit. And so, for that reason, I'm going to say that it's a 9 out of 10 from me on Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. So anyway guys, I thank you as always for watching. That's the end of the podcast today. Thank you as always for watching, and also if you have watched either of these things that I've been reviewing in this podcast today, please let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on, say, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, or even Glass Onion and Knives Out mystery if you've already seen it. And also please feel free to like and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. and look forward to more coming in the future. I don't know how many film reviews I'm going to have coming on the channel, on the YouTube channel, in the next couple of weeks, just because, like I said before, I'm ridiculously busy right now. Honestly, just so stressed. But I should have a podcast coming next week, probably talking about Indiana Jones 5, because I feel we're going to get a trailer on Indiana Jones 5 within the next week. We've got a lot of new images released from the film, and the latest article from Empire magazine was all about Indiana Jones 5 as well, which I ended up picking up about a week ago, this week actually. So yeah, I'll probably do my next podcast on Indiana Jones 5, talking about a lot of the exciting news surrounding that movie, and hopefully have a trailer out hopefully have a trailer from that film out as well. But until then, guys, until my next podcast, suppose this is it though. So thank you as always for watching. This is such a messy ending to the podcast, but still nonetheless a messy ending to a messy podcast overall. Thank you as always for watching and listening, and see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.